When you picture ancient humans, you probably see the same few images. Someone hunting a mammoth, someone discovering fire, someone pressing a painted hand against a cave wall. That's the version of prehistory everyone knows. But there's one part of their lives that almost nobody talks about. And when scientists finally cracked it open using DNA, the truth turned out to be far stranger than anyone imagined. Because ancient humans weren't just having sex with each other, they were having sex with entirely different species. Here's the part most people never learned in school. Our ancestors, Homo sapiens, were not alone. They shared the planet with other kinds of humans. Real, walking, breathing human species that were not us. There were the Neanderthals, stocky and powerful, living across Europe and Western Asia. And there were the Denisovans, a group so mysterious that for years we only knew them from a single finger bone found in a Siberian cave. For a long time, scientists assumed these groups mostly kept to themselves. Different species, different worlds. They were wrong. When researchers finally sequenced the Neanderthal genome and compared it to ours, they found something impossible to ignore. The DNA of these other species was sitting inside modern human beings. It was inside people alive right now, and the only way it could have gotten there was through sex. This isn't a vague theory. The proof is written into your own body. If your ancestry traces to anywhere outside of Africa, you are carrying roughly 2% Neanderthal DNA right now. Not a metaphor. Actual genetic code passed down from encounters that happened tens of thousands of years ago, and it goes further. In parts of the world like Papua New Guinea and the islands of Oceania, people carry as much as 4 to 6% Denisovan DNA. An entire branch of humanity that vanished from the Earth still survives. Quietly, inside living people today. Even more striking, scientists discovered this wasn't a one-time accident. It wasn't a single strange encounter on the edge of a forest. By comparing ancient genomes spanning tens of thousands of years, researchers found that the mixing happened repeatedly, over an extended period, as these groups migrated and crossed paths again and again. Our ancestors didn't just occasionally meet other human species. They kept finding them, and they kept having children with them. If you want the single most haunting piece of evidence, it comes from that same cave in Siberia. Denisova Cave. Inside, archaeologists found a small fragment of bone belonging to a girl who died around 50,000 years ago. She was at least 13 years old. The bone was so unremarkable that, at first, no one expected much from it. Then they read her DNA. The result stopped scientists in their tracks. Her mother was a Neanderthal. Her father was a Denisovan. She was a first-generation hybrid, the direct child of two different human species. We even gave her a name, Denisova 11. Think about what that means. This wasn't two distant relatives who looked nearly identical. Neanderthals and Denisovans had split apart genetically almost 400,000 years earlier. They were profoundly different kinds of human. And yet, here was their daughter. The detail that makes it even stranger? Her Denisovan father carried Neanderthal ancestry of his own from further back. Which tells us this kind of mixing wasn't rare or shocking to them at all. It was happening across generations. These different humans were moving around, meeting, and blending together far more often than anyone had ever believed. But it would be a mistake to imagine all of this as some kind of romance. For ancient humans, sex wasn't only about reproduction. Anthropologists believe it played a much larger role in their survival. In small, tightly bound groups, intimacy helped form alliances, ease tension, and hold fragile communities together in a world that was constantly trying to kill them. And there was a darker reality underneath it all. These populations were tiny. Finding a mate was not always a matter of choice. When scientists examined the toe bone of a Neanderthal woman who lived around 50,000 years ago, they uncovered something uncomfortable. Her parents had been closely related. So closely that they may have been half-siblings, or a niece and uncle, or cousins of cousins. This wasn't unusual for her world. In groups that small, scattered across a brutal landscape, inbreeding was often unavoidable. The same isolation that pushed our ancestors to mate across species also trapped many of them into mating far too close to home. So when we ask if ancient humans had a crazy sex life, the honest answer isn't simply yes. It's that their intimate lives were complicated, strategic, sometimes desperate, and shaped entirely by the harsh mathematics of survival. It was wild, but it was rarely free. Here's the part that should genuinely change how you see yourself. None of this is a distant story about strangers who turned to dust long ago. It is written, letter by letter, inside you right now. That 2% of Neanderthal DNA you might be carrying isn't just a fossil sitting in your cells doing nothing. Scientists have found that these inherited genes still shape real parts of who you are. They influence your circadian rhythm, the internal clock that decides whether you're a morning person or a night owl. They affect how your immune system fights off infection. They even touch the way some people experience pain. Every one of those traits is an echo, a signal sent across 50,000 years from an encounter between two different kinds of human who chose, for reasons we'll never fully know, to come together. You are not the product of one clean, simple human story. You are the result of a tangled, messy, almost unbelievable web of different species meeting in an ancient world and deciding to create something new. So, did ancient humans have a crazy sex life? They did something far stranger than crazy. They mixed bloodlines that should never have met. They blurred the line between separate species. And in doing so, they wrote the code that became you. If this rewired the way you think about your own origins, subscribe. Because the next forgotten truth about ancient humans is even harder to believe than this one.